Yeah. Right. Let's go.
In addition to the punk rock movie and Westway to the World, you have covered other genres like jazz, like pop music, the poetry with Jill Scott Heron movie, Northern Soul here in the UK, and a lot of pop bands. What moves you in choosing themes and projects?
Jesus, what moves me? That's a good question. I guess when I'm trying to work with an artist, I guess I'm looking for people that are trying to express what I feel, and I'm expressing myself through their work in a very weird way. I guess, that's definitely part of the relationship. And it's also about passing on the energy that made me who I am. You know what I mean? It's like giving somebody a good book. Nothing comes out of a void. The things that made Don Letts who he is today, I read or I heard or whatever. And I'm a great believer in passing on that energy to kind of make the world kind of a more interesting place, man. You know what I mean? It's like in the punk rock club when, I was turning on my friends with reggae and they were turning me on with the whole DIY thing. And out of this crazy cultural mix came the punky reggae party. And more exciting things happened. So, yeah, it's about cultural exchange, I guess. And as much as I'm trying to express something, I guess I'm trying to learn. I go in with fixed ideas, but I'm always open to learning. As much as I'm trying to teach the audience or pass on information to the audience, I'm constantly learning myself. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's this, symbiotic relationship with the artist where, they're helping me say what I want to say, and they're kind of, teaching me shit as well. It's a dialogue. Mm-hmm. It's a dialogue with people that I'm interested in. That's what it is.
Perfect.
It's hard. You're asking me to think about things that I do instinctively. I don't think about these things. I just do them. I get an idea and I run with the idea. And then afterwards, other people tear these things apart. But me, I just follow my instinct. I don't overthink, I have to say. And I don't overanalyze. I don't over-intellectualize.
Let it happen.
It's like rock and roll, man. It fucking hits you or it doesn't.
Perfect.
If I have to think twice about it, maybe it's not for me.
How important was the impact of seeing Bob Marley in the 70s here in London? And tell me more about the stories and the relationship that you guys have after knowing.
Okay, this story people ask me many times. Listen, the bottom line is, it's not like me and Bob were best friends. I knew the guy for 1 year. Well, I knew him for a couple of years, but basically it was 1 year he was living in London. I met him in 75 first, and then he came back in 1977 and was living here in Chelsea. And during that period I saw him quite often because I used to sell him weed, right? And I guess
for us in Brazil that's an important question because in the suburbs, in the reggae is really strong there.
No, listen, reggae is strong around the world for people because it's the voice of the dispossessed, man. That's music, a great example of music being used as a tool for social change. It's funny, in the West, everybody's like Bob Marley, one love, but for most people in the world, it's get up, stand up. That's what we identify with. What were we saying? I forgot what we were saying. Bob Marley. Okay, so for a year I saw him fairly frequently. We would have been better friends if I could play football. I don't like football, so I didn't play football. So I saw him, once or twice a week. And the last time we spoke, we had a disagreement about punk rock because I went round there wearing punk rock clothes, and he said I look like one of these punk rockers. And he'd been reading the newspaper, and the newspaper said punk rockers were very negative, nihilistic, it was shit, which was rubbish. Punk wasn't about these things. It was about empowerment, individuality, freedom. Anyway, I said to Bob, look, you're wrong. These guys, they're my friends. They're interesting people. And he was like, no, get the fuck out of here. Anyway, I left. A few months later, I guess, he'd found out what punk was really about. and he wrote that song, Punky Reggae Party. So I was pleased that, you know, I was the first man to stand my ground with Bob, because I was young then. I was like 19, maybe 18, you know, little baby dread, and to disagree with Bob was a big deal, but I had to.
I remember Bob Marley. He never played in Brazil actually, but he was in Brazil, I believe, in 1979 to 1980. And he was there. The most important thing for him is to play football in Brazil.
Yeah.
And on the television, the only thing that we saw about Bob Marley, he played football with Brazilian artists.
Yeah.
And he was very happy. There's a famous picture of him with a Santos Football Club like a shirt. We can say by his smile that he's having a great time there.
Yeah. Unfortunately, football doesn't mean shit to me.
Football, it's very important in Brazil.
Believe me, I know. Here too.
I know.
You know.
I'm in Chelsea for this week.
Some men like to chase balls. I like to chase women.
I prefer to. Talking about those times that you don't remember, that song Samba Drum of BAD create a strong connection with us in Brazil.
Yes.
How it came about and how it was to play in Brazil in that time.
Well, you know, I tell you what was great is to be able to hear about something that's happening in a place that's very far from your situation, write a song about it, and then to go there and to realize how strong a connection it made with the people. That was such a buzz. You know, that it speaks about the power of music, to be able to communicate and exchange ideas through song. And that was a perfect example, Samba Drum. I think, if I remember rightly, you know, Mick and I have been listening to Brazilian music, and was there that film, was it Pixotti, this film Pixotti?
Yeah, Pixotti, from Hector Babenco.
And then also, we heard about the situation where, you know, obviously with the drugs and the tourists, you know the whole shit that is in the song. And it inspired us to write this song that obviously made a connection. And I'm very proud of that. Very proud of that.
In the concert in São Paulo, I remember.
Did we got the guy to come and go?
Exactly, that's what I'm going to say.
That's right.
And
I wish I could remember.
To say, go from Santos, go from São Paulo, for each one of the teams of the city.
Yeah.
It was very fun.
Yeah.
I was there, was teenager, was amazing.
I kind of vaguely remember.
That guy was a very famous speaker.
He's died now, right?
No, he had a disaster, a car crash, and had some problems. But he's recovering.
Okay.
He don't work anymore.
Okay.
But we can see him in so many parties, and he's always there. He's always there. His name is Osmar Santos.
Osman Santos, respect.
Yeah. Respect, yeah, exactly. Brazil nowadays is in a delicate political moment. Current in the place of a drug dealer. Do you think the inspiration would be politicians and all the corruption that surround them?
Say that again?
Nowadays in Brazil we have huge problems in political area with corruption.
Yeah, listen to me, it's not just Brazil, my friend.
I can't
you know, even in these so-called first world countries, if you know, there's a lot of shit. I mean, you heard about the fire.
Yeah.
You know, that's the result of corruption.
Sure.
That's the result of people trying to save money. You know, so it's not just a Brazilian thing, it's a global thing. The gap between the people that have and the people that don't have, it's getting worse, you know.
In Brazil still the problem is worse than here.
There's a problem. The big problem is people are making money out of poor people.
Exactly.
People don't realize that. There's actually, you can make money out of people being poor.
Crazy.
You know?
What I ask is if maybe that song, if we're gonna read this song today, maybe it will not be about a drug dealer.
No,
maybe it will be about a politician.
Yeah, that would be very easy though. The politicians have always been there for us to, you know.
How was the return of the original BAD some years ago? And if the band have more plans for the future?
I would do it again tomorrow, but Mick Jones, he's not interested. He doesn't need to do it, but I loved it. It was great. And it was good to see how easy it was that we came together, because we still see each other. I mean, there was only one casualty, but we survived that. But other than that, it was great to see how much love there was for the band. You know, you kind of forget, you know, we weren't massive globally, but I think we we joined a lot of dots for a lot of people, and I think we also signposted the multicultural way that music was going by mixing all these different genres.
That's what I'm going to ask on the next question. BAD have a multimedia spirit. Maybe it was a step ahead of the time, putting together visual aspects and music. Today is quite normal. You can see bands like Gorillaz making us as a strong pop reference. Did you see that at the time as pioneering?
Not at all. We were just doing what turned us on. You know, it was about having, you know, Jamaican bass lines, New York hip hop beats, Mick Jones's rock and roll guitar. And because I couldn't play anything, that's where the whole sample and dialogue thing started. Because I wanted to do something. So first I'm stealing bits of dialogue from Sergio Leone movies and things like that. But then eventually I had to kind of justify my space. And with Mick's guidance, I actually started writing the lyrics with him. And I co-wrote, you know, a third, maybe nearly half of the songs with him. I mean, one of the first lyrics I ever wrote was E equals MC squared, you know. And that was a buzz. Having to work with Mick, I mean, you know, this guy's written great songs with Joe Strummer. And now I was like little apprentice learning to write with Mick. And I'm very proud of some of the songs I wrote with him. Really proud of them.
Okay. Talking about Joe Strummer, are you still following Joe Strummer Foundation? Do you know how are their activities currently?
They're still up and running. They have Strummerville every year at Glastonbury, and they're still funding a lot of different operations around the world and young bands here. And it's not just about helping people here as well. Like I say, they've helped set up studios in Africa, for instance, I believe. I think they've set up something in South America. I'm not sure. But if they haven't, they probably soon will. But it's very much in the spirit of, you know, again, that thing of Joe wanting to kind of pass on that creative energy and help people out, you know.
Do you think that if The Clash is still working today, if Mick Jones and Joe Strummer were together and everything, do you think how big the band will be nowadays?
It's not about size, man. It's about the quality. You know, they were never as big as U2, but does that matter? You know, I don't think they wanted to be. It was never about numbers. You know, it was about the quality of the people that you were communicating with and the possibilities that came out of that creative exchange. You know, that was much more important. I mean, that's why The Clash kind of imploded, because Joe was very, you know, he loved people and he loved the planet, you know, and he was a very, you know, organic person. He believed in the spirit of people, you know, and I think one of his greatest talents was to make everybody feel like they had a part to play, even though sometimes they